So you're probably familiar with the 6th diminished scale. If not, I've linked some videos below to explain the concept, and I'll review it briefly here, but the main point of this video is to show you how to get started using the 6th diminished scale chords in a major 2-5-1. The 6th diminished scale essentially can be looked at as a modified major scale. So if you take a C major scale, and you add a note in between the 5th and 6th notes, you get the 6th diminished scale. The reason why it's called the 6th diminished scale is because this is essentially a 6th chord and a diminished chord. Those are the notes that make up the whole scale. Now, that's the major 6th diminished. If you flat the 3rd, harmonize that out, you get minor 6 chords, alternating with a diminished chord. And that creates a lot of movement. The shapes that I think are easiest to get started with are on the highest string set. And then it repeats. And notice that we have our C6 chords, or A minor chords, here. And then you have your diminished, which are all the same fingering, minor thirds apart. And looking at just the minor 6 shapes, and then of course the diminished are the same as we did for the C major 6. I want to draw your attention to some relationships that will make this whole thing easier to understand and to remember. So the first relationship is that a major 6th chord, like for example C major 6, is exactly the same notes as a minor 7th. The relationship is a minor third apart. If you look at a minor 6 chord, this is an A minor 6. These are the same notes as an F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Same exact notes, and these two chords are also a minor third apart. No matter what key we're in, we're going to have the same sequence. If we were in the key of F, if we were in the key of E flat major, the sequence is the same. So you want to memorize this. Start with any shape randomly from the sequence and be able to go up with it and move it down. Leave the diminished shapes out at first and just practice moving around the tonic chord. Then practice adding in the diminished shapes. Once you have the sequence of the chords memorized, then you can actually start improvising with it, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. So let's look at some examples of 2-5-1s. These examples are all going to be in the key of G, and they're all going to be major 2-5-1s. And then on part 2 of this video, I'm going to go over how to play over minor 2-5-1s. 2-5-1 in the key of G is going to be A minor 7, D7, G major 7, or G major 6. Now, in Barry Harris' world, there's no such thing as A minor. A minor is actually just a inversion of C6. But I think it doesn't really matter what point of view you look at it, as long as it sounds the same. In other words, if I'm playing C6 diminished over A minor, doesn't matter if I'm thinking of that as A minor diminished or C6 diminished, right? It's the same chord, same notes. So over this A minor, we would play the C6 diminished or A minor diminished, however you want to think of that. Then when we hit the D7, we can continue to play the C6 diminished. You can play A minor over D, and if you do that, you get kind of a dominant sus sound. And then what we need to do is resolve to G6. There is a way to play over G major 7, which I'll go over next. But if we resolve to G6, that's going to be here. Right? Notice G6 is the same as E minor. E minor 7. And here's an E minor 7, right? And so here's our G major 6. So we're going from this A minor slash C6, whatever you want to think of that, to G6. If we want to create a G major 7 sound, we would play the major 6th off of the 5th of the chord. That's a rule, and I'll explain why that works. So if we look at D6, here's D6, right? So we have a D, here's a D major chord, here's the 6, so that's D6. If you look at that over G, you'll see that we get a 9, the 5th, the major 7th, and the major 3rd. So pretty much everything but the root. So this gives us a major 7, major 9 sound. Looks like a B minor, by the way, right? One thing that's interesting about that is if we're playing this over a G major, notice that the diminished chords are actually G diminished. So we're playing over a G major 7, and it's like we're going back and forth between G diminished and G major 7, and yet it sounds great. Now the next thing we can do is we can move from A minor 7 over the A minor 7 chord, and then when we get to D, we can play A minor 6, and that's going to create kind of a D9 sound. Now if we want to put in more tensions on the dominant chord, what we can do is we can move our A minor 6 around in minor thirds. So if we move it up a minor third, we see that we've got a C minor 6 moving to G major is going to be like what we would call a backdoor dominant type of sound. We can do D in the bass and have a C minor 6 on the upper notes, right? We've got basically a flat 9 and then a suspended 4. So that's going to sound like this. We'll go A minor 7, and when I say A minor 7, I mean C major 6, same thing. A minor 7 into C minor 6 into G major 6. Now if we want a fully altered sound, what we can do is go to a tritone away from the C6 or A minor. We have this A minor 7, and we're going to go to a tritone away, and that's going to be E flat minor 6. One easy way to find the altered scale, of course, is to do a melodic minor scale a half step above your dominant chord. So in this case, D7, we go up a half a step, we have E flat melodic minor. So here in this example, we'll do A minor 7, and then we'll go to E flat minor 6, and then to our G major 6. So again, I went right up the C6 diminished scale. Then I went into E flat minor 6, and then resolving to G6 diminished. Alright, that wraps it up for this video. In the next video, I'm going to talk about using the 6th diminished approach to creating a chord solo over a minor 2-5-1. See you next time.